And this is kind of a direct reference to what we might call lotus flower symbolism in Mahayana Buddhism. And it's, well, I should warn you, I'm trained as a philosopher, so sometimes I like nice long philosophical terms. I call this the togetherness of rootedness and transcendence. The togetherness of rootedness and transcendence. The idea is, you've probably all heard this thousands of times, the idea is that the lotus flower has its roots in the mud. It doesn't abandon the mud. It keeps its roots in the mud in order to blossom in the sky. And it's a symbol of being earthly, being devoted to the earth. And the Lotus Sutra is, we could give another long talk on the Lotus Sutra's affirmation of the importance of this world and of this earth. There are many, many places in the Lotus Sutra where it's basically telling us, don't get too concerned about other worlds, whether they be in the next life or in this life. This is your world. This is the world in which you can do bodhisattva practice. This is the world in which you need to take care of. So the Lotus Sutra wants to affirm our rootedness in the earth, and through the symbol of the lotus flower, lotus plant, I probably should say, which is rooted in the mud. But at the same time, the Lotus Sutra has lots and lots of kind of crazy stories about connections to a bigger cosmos. And it wants us to understand that what we do in this world is in a very large cosmic setting. And it does this in ways that may seem kind of strange nowadays, but I think are just kind of poetic expressions of the importance of understanding ourselves as being part of a cosmic process. And that, so that we are both rooted in the earth, but also blooming in the sky and connected to the whole cosmos. There's there was a Japanese poet by the name of Miyazawa Kenji. I don't know, I wonder. I don't know much about Singapore life and Singapore culture and what you read here. Have any of you seen either in a book or in a animated film or in any other way seen Kenji Miyazawa's The Night of the Milky Way Railroad? I don't see anybody, so apparently it's not. It's known fairly well in the United States, and I think every Japanese is aware of that story. I don't think anybody is not aware of that story. And I'm tempted to tell you the story now, but I don't know if I should do that. What do we have, an hour? Well, it is an interesting story. It's fun. I won't tell you the whole story. I'll just tell you maybe the beginning and the end. This is a story about a boy. This is a Japanese boy by the name of Campanella. Already something strange here. This is a Japanese boy with an Italian name. And he is traveling on a train through the Milky Way. And he's there with his best friend, or at least another boy who he hopes would be his best friend. And I'm going to skip most of the story here. They run into all kinds of very interesting people. For example, a couple of people show up, and there's another guy, Sparrowhawk or something like that, who's also riding on this train, and he looks at this ticket and he says, wow, this is a round-trip ticket. This is a ticket you can go back to the earth. The rest of us don't have round-trip tickets. And so gradually it becomes apparent that this is a train that is carrying the souls of the dead to another world. And here's this Campanella, and he can come back. Well, he finally does go back, returns to the earth, and he wakes up from his dream, is told that his best friend, there's a festival going on. This is a river town. There's a festival around the river, and he's told that his best friend has drowned in the river. And he has a conversation with the other boy's father, and of course he's very distraught. His best friend wants to know what happened. Why can't he be saved or anything? No, he's gone. And then there's a kind of epiphany. He's up on the top of a hill and he looks down at the river, the earthly river. And there's a little lights because there's a festival going on. He looks down at that river and he sees in the river of his hometown a reflection of the Milky Way, which in Japanese, also in Chinese, is a river. And so it's a kind of what we call an epiphany, a kind of, well, modern parlance, I guess we'd say a peak experience, in which he sees in one coming together a kind of unity of the earthly river and the heavenly river. And he realizes that he can do what he never could do before and be a kind of, well, in the story he wouldn't use the term bodhisattva, but could in effect do what needs to be done. And he goes, at the end of the story is he goes to the store and buys a bottle of milk to take home to his mother. So there's a kind of relating through story here of a kind of connection between the Milky Way, which is obviously a kind of symbol for the whole cosmos, and the earthly way, which is symbolized in this river in his hometown. Well, that's sort of another footnote. It's a part of that story is one I didn't intend to tell, but it's trying to get at the idea of the togetherness of both rootedness in the earth and blooming toward the cosmos. Well, we can all enjoy lotus flowers, whether they're, I think this is painted wood, or whether they're actual blossoms like the one that was on the screen a few minutes ago. We can all enjoy a wide variety of lotus flowers. And that's good. But what the Lotus Sutra wants is not that we would enjoy lotus flowers, but that we would ourselves become flowers. And that's basically what I want to talk with you about tonight, is the Lotus Sutra's interest in having you and I be ourselves lotus flowers. And there are two ways in which this is the case, one vertical and one horizontal. The vertical case is to be connected both to the earth and to the sky or to the cosmos. It's the kind of thing we were talking about in Miyazawa's story. But it is to be connected to the earth and to the cosmos, but to be connected for the Lotus Sutra is at the same time to connect. It is to bring them together in some way for the sake of others. In other words, it is to be, as Miyazawa's story is intended to be, a kind of revelation of a connectedness or a togetherness of the cosmos and the earth. The horizontal case is to be rooted in everyday life. As you may know, probably you don't know, at least it seemed to me maybe in the introduction, Wang Fai was not aware, all through the history of Chinese Buddhism until relatively recently, there have been called White Lotus teachings or White Lotus societies. We don't know a lot about them because these were societies which were against the establishment, which often meant the established government and the established monastic order. And they were kind of, oftentimes, not always, but quite often, they were kind of revolutionary movements. And they inspired, there are cases, this is a case where the Lotus Sutra itself inspired various kinds of political and social reform. But the people behind these reform movements were basically peasants. They didn't read and write. And so what we know about these movements is basically what other people wrote about them. Called them things like vegetable eaters, suggesting that they were vegetarians. Called them, it's kind of a long phrase, men and women who gather indiscriminately in the middle of the night. Things like that. So mostly what we have in writing about the Lotus teachings, Lotus flower teachings, is very negative. And we can only kind of summarize or guess from that kind of negative description of them what they were about. But we do know a little bit about that. So the idea that the horizontal dimension of the teachings of the Lotus Sutra has to do with being rooted in everyday life, in ordinary human life, but to be at the same time a kind of flower, a kind of blossoming for other people. And that's what the Lotus Sutra really wants of us, is that we would be flowers for others. So that's the first kind of, I keep losing that, my computer likes to go to sleep, I guess. I could have said it, but I reset I did. Anyway, so that's the first of the three kinds of, I want to talk about three kinds of lotus flowers in the Lotus Sutra. The first kind is this very common, basic kind of idea of the lotus flower in Mahayana.